What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. Today we're looking at the r/daddy cringe subreddit. I put it under entitled parents just for the keywords, just for the YouTube. You know what I'm talking about. These are all stories from our r/daddy cringe subreddit that you shared, so I will gladly read. If you want your story shared, you know where to put it on there. The link's in the description below. Also be a pinned comment below, so be sure to click it, share your story there, and I'm sure we'll get up on the channel at some point. If you do enjoy these stories, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell, as it hugely helps out our channel. And thank you so much. Let's get started. Much love now. Our first story is from Runitu, Coronavirus Paranoia. A little background if you're not super deep in the news. Coronavirus is very common upper respiratory infection, think common cold. What the pandemic panic is referring to is COVID-19. A novel strain of the virus that is way more aggressive than the other strains. Hospital didn't even test for the other strains until COVID-19 started to make the news. In almost any hospitals in the USA, if a patient on a normal unit is positive for anything infectious, they are immediately placed under isolation. Usually the flu, rhinovirus, another common cold, MRSA, C. diff, and MDRO, bacterial infections. Staff don't isolate gear before going into these rooms to prevent infectious diseases from hitching a ride on their clothes and infecting their more vulnerable patients. To the average person, these conditions are not dangerous. Okay, now onto the story. I work on a cardiac unit in an affluent area near St. Louis MO as a nursing assistant. This being the dead centre of flu season, we have many isolation rooms that included masks in their isolation procedures, and me and some co-workers during shift change were discussing coronavirus during patient handoff. Obviously this crazy lady was listening in. I was donning my isolation gear outside a patient's room when the wild Karen appears. Karen said, "Excuse me, does this person have coronavirus?" Me surprised, "What?" Karen said, "You are putting on a gown and gloves. They must have coronavirus." "I'm sorry, I can't share private patient information with you. It is against the law." Karen says, "That means yes. Oh my god, my husband had a heart attack and now he's going to get the virus. What kind of place are you running here?" I said, "Mom, that doesn't mean yes. It means I can't share information about parents with anyone." "I demand you tell me." I said, "No, I can't." At this point, I just ignore her and finish putting on my stupid gown to take my patient's vitals, shutting the door firmly in Karen's face. About an hour later, me and some other co-workers were charting around the nursing station when one nurse is telling me a very similar story. Oh hell no, please tell me this crazy Karen accosted me again. Lo and behold, next set of vitals, we do them every 4 hours. I'm going into a different isolation room and here comes Karen. "I can't believe this hospital. My husband is very sick and no one will tell me which parents have coronavirus. You should be ashamed." I said, "Mom, if you don't stop trying to get staff to share private patient information with you, I'm going to call security and have them ban you from the building. I suggest you go back to your husband's room and research the facts about the virus." Funny, I never saw Karen wandering the halls again. Love your channel, Mark. You have one of the most kind-hearted, awesome channels on YouTube. I never miss an episode. That's really nice to hear. You know, I like to think that we're a really accepting community and basically love for everyone. If you look at our Discord, we've got a whole selection of whole different people from all walks of life, and they're also loving and kind, and that's one of the things that keeps me going. So thank you so much. Oh, getting a little emotional here. Oh, great story, by the way. Crazy ass people. Our next story is from Jasper Jeep. A traumatic experience I had at 6 years old. "Hi Mark, I figured sharing this traumatic experience of mine would be a good story for Subscriber Sunday. I hope it's good content." Me too, buddy. When I was in first grade in elementary school back in 1999, I had a traumatic experience with a vice principal. VP, absolute trash of a vice principal. Mum, my mum, GC guidance counsellor. One day in class we were working on an assignment. I'd finished the assignment and went to hand it in to the teacher. Back then I suffered from a condition commonly called pigeon toe, which causes you to subconsciously turn your feet inward while walking. It's something I eventually grew out of and I can walk normally now, but back then I used to trip over my own feet constantly, and on this particular day it happened while returning to my desk. My toe turned inward and I stepped on it, causing me to lose my balance. I started to fall and I instinctively reached out to grab anything to restore my balance. Unfortunately it happened to be another student. I panicked and started apologising because I had accidentally scratched his neck. He started crying. I tried to explain what happened to the teacher, but 6-year-old me was scared speechless, and the teacher thought I had hurt him on purpose and sent me to the VP's office. Once there, I was scared stiff and on the verge of crying. Then the VP walked in. The VP said, "So you thought it'd be funny to harm another student, huh?" I shook my head no, too afraid to speak. I don't remember exactly what she said, but she continued to yell at me for what seemed like half an hour. I started crying and repeating the word sorry over and over. She wasn't having it though. The VP said, "The way I see it, you have 2 options. A, I can either switch you with a fly swatter 10 times, or B, I can call the police and have you arrested." Me crying and screaming, "I want my mummy, I said I'm sorry, it was an accident." The VP kept pressuring me to make a decision of either the fly swatter or the police, and each time I get more scared and more angry and loud. Finally she was called out of the room to address something and left the room. I sat there crying with the door wide open. The guidance counsellor saw me and called me over to her office. I was scared to move from my spot because I thought the VP would get angry with me. GC reassured me, so I went to her office, still scared. GC said, "Can you tell me why you're crying? It's okay, I'm not going to get angry at you. Just tell me what happened." I said I tripped and fell and got someone hurt, I'm sorry. "So it was an accident?" I nodded yes. "So why are you crying?" I said she was going to hit me with a fly swatter and call the police. "I see, did she call your parents?" I shook my head no. "I want my mummy." GC had a stern look on her face at that response, but stayed calm. "Do you know your mummy's phone number? Is she at work?" I nodded yes. She gave her work number to the school. GC then looked at my mum's work number and called her. I said, "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetie, but you need to stay here in the office." I said, "Can I talk to her?" She handed me the phone and I told mum what had happened. My mum said she would be there soon to pick me up. After the call ended, the VP had returned, demanded I go back in her office. This next part is where I realised GC was a superhero. She was paralysed from the waist down, but that didn't stop her from not allowing VP to get her way. GC said, "Did you threaten this child with police force and a spanking?" The VP said, "I gave him a choice. One he still has yet to make. He needs to learn that he can't just go around harming other students." GC said, "Did you even try to listen to him? Did you even speak to his parents? His mother is on the way here and I can guarantee you she won't be happy." The VP called in the resource officer at that point. GC refused to let him near me, parking her wheelchair at the entrance to the office to block the way. I didn't know this back then, but it was against the school policy to have any of the students detained by the police without consent of the parents, and corporal punishment in schools was still legal back then, but again required consent from the parents at the beginning of the school year. My mum signed a corporal punishment slip with the "I do not consent" box checked, meaning legally none of the faculty could administer corporal punishment to me, and the VP had threatened me with a fly swatter. When my mum got there, it was a shouting match between her, the VP and GC. My mum said, "Where's my son? Is he hurt? Is he in handcuffs? I want my son here now." I called out to her from GC's office. I was hiding behind the desk. My mum said, "Stay right there, sweetie. Mummy has to teach this woman some manners." She gets into VP's face, her forehead within meters of touching the VP's, and she was 100% in mama bear mode. Mum said, "This will never happen again. Am I clear? He harmed the student," and she gets cut off. "I don't care about your excuses. I know what happened. You violated the school policy on 2 accounts. You should have called me before threatening to spank him or have him arrested. I have half a mind to drag you to court." I was listening to my mum let on thick to the VP and started giggling. I was enjoying watching VP cower in fear, getting what she deserved. Mum turned to GC. "Thank you for looking out for my boy. If you don't mind, I'd like to sign him out for the day." GC moved to let my mum come and take me. I ran to her and just hugged her in silence as she signed me out. The VP said, "I will still have to suspend him for 3 days. My mum didn't listen to her and she led me out to the car. She took me out for ice cream. The principal called my mum and apologised for the whole ordeal and told her that my suspension was voided. Next day when I went back and ran into VP on my way to class, she tried to act though nothing had happened and was trying to play nice. I avoided her like the plague and went to class. The teacher apologised to me and told me that GC explained what had happened. I apologised to the kid I hurt, but he understood that it was an accident and forgave me. 6 months later, the VP resigned from her position, and eventually I learned that she had violated the school policy again and did the same thing to another student, even after being warned by the principal not to do it again or she would be fired. Good riddance if you ask me. Wow, that is a crazy story. Kind of don't get though, is threatening a 6-year-old with police? Is that a thing? Thank you very, very much for sharing that story, Jasper, and I do hope you're well. Our next story is from Dead Queen Gwen. Not sure if this is EP or CB or just insane. Kid harasses artist for adult piece. Obligatory first Reddit post warning. Poor grammar and punctuation is direct transcription. English is native. Hi Mark, I heard you say you need more for Subscriber Sunday, so here I am, shirking my homework just for you. Always do your homework first. This isn't 18 plus, but I understand if you don't include it because of the subject material. You rock anyway. I found the screenshots of this convo and decided it was time to tell the story. I can post the screenshots later if anyone wants them. They're incomplete and the guy has since deleted his profile so the messages are gone, but it shows the bulk of what I wrote. Relevant background. I'm a commission artist, which means people pay me to draw what they want. I miraculously only encountered a few choosing beggars, and I think I'd classify this as one of them. Or maybe he's just an insane 14-year-old. I'm 26 and would occasionally do adult pieces because I'm an adult and I do what I want. This kind of work also pays me more than regular pieces. Standard practice is to require ID for anything adult in nature. I live in a pretty conservative state and the legal consequences are very harsh and expensive, providing a minor with unapproved materials, starting with a $2,500 fine up to and including 5 years jail time. I always make completely sure I'm within my legal limits. I don't want to go to jail. I also do work for furries. I'm not one myself, but it's a good place to break into commission work, and the community is largely a great place and very welcoming. Story time. I got a message from a potential client about 2 years ago, asking for an adult furry piece with some mildly acrobatic positions. I tell him it'd be $60, which is actually lower than the standard prices are, considering the content. He immediately launches into a complaint, and while it's aggressive, it's pretty short-lived. I then tell him again, I'll need his ID to do the work to make sure he's of age and that I won't end up in prison. And I already suspect he's under 18, since he's refusing to acknowledge my repeated request for ID. The following is a direct transcription of the messages. I left out some messages where he repeated the same question 3 to 4 times, for length's sake. Players, OM, obviously a minor. Dude bro who wants a commission. Me, who knows, could be anybody. I say, great, I'm glad we could agree on a price. I'll need your ID to get started, just to protect both of us. He said, why do you need my ID? It's really just to make sure you're over 18. You can block out everything beside your name, date of birth and photo. He said, I'm over 18. Glad to hear it, I'll just need a photo of your ID to make sure. No. Okay, I can't start the piece without it. You don't need an ID, I said I'm over 18. Okay, if you don't want to show your ID, that's okay, but I won't be doing the work. Why do you need my ID? Like I said, it's to protect both of us. But why? Why do you need my address for? I don't need your address, you can block that out. I just need to be able to see your photo, name and date of birth. And because it's illegal to distribute this kind of material to anyone under the age of 18, and it's punishable by law. I'm 25. That's fine, but I still have to make sure. Just like getting carded at a bar. I'm not showing you my ID. If you're not willing to show your ID, that's your choice, but I won't be able to do the piece if I don't personally see it. I'm not going to put myself in that kind of legal jeopardy. You wouldn't be punished, but I would be fined and possibly detained. But I'm not going to show you my ID. I could find other people to do the commissions. That's fine, but I know the laws and amendments. I'm not going to do it until I can personally confirm you're over 18 via your ID. As I said, I don't need anything but your name, date of birth and photo. Everything else can edit out. Again, it's your choice, but I'm not putting myself in legal danger. I can link you to my state website that has laws if you want to confirm. No. That's fine. Thanks for your interest. Have a nice day. Then he says, in the be honest, what the fuck? Other people have been doing commission without showing ID. I bet you're a paedophile and just want to know people by the ID. You're not going to bully me into this. Paedophiles go after prepubescent children. If you're not a child, you don't have anything to worry about anyway, and they can do whatever they want. As such, I can do whatever I want, and I don't want to do NSFW without ID. If you don't stop trying to bully me into this, I'm going to block and report you for harassment for explicit material, which is exactly what you're doing. He said, wait, I'm sorry, I'm not harassing you, you just don't need my ID. Thank you for the apology. So you'll do it? No, have a nice day. Firstly, at some point you need to share some of your work with us in Discord. We've got an art channel especially for that, so jump on in, share some of your work with us, and what the hell? Trying to bully you into doing some work like that, yeah, I can imagine you're getting a lot of trouble if you don't get IDs and stuff. But surely, couldn't they just come up with a fake ID to show you? I imagine you can still cover yourself with it if you do get in trouble, but surely just the name and date of birth and photo doesn't really prove anything? I don't know, let me know, just curious now. Thank you very, very much for sharing that story, it is truly much appreciated. Our next story is from CLRT Wall 103. I know who you are. Malicious compliance. So, in the mid-80s, when I was around 19 or 20 years old, I worked in a local department store credit department. I worked customer service, but late one afternoon, I was asked to fill in for one of the credit authorizers because she had to leave early. The credit authorizer, CA, is the person that approves or declines charges if they don't go through automatically. For instance, if someone tries to make a purchase that would put them over their credit limit, the charge would be stopped and flagged, and the store clerk would then have to call the CA to get an approval code, or to be informed that the purchase is declined. Accounts could also be stopped and flagged if there are account holder stipulations, such as parents putting limits on the amount their children can purchase, or a requirement that anyone using the account must show proper identification and be listed as an authorized purchaser on the account. I received notification on the authorization machine. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what it was called, that a charge had been flagged without the code that indicated it was an ID only flag. I pulled up the account to see who the authorized users on the account were, and lo and behold, if it wasn't our local sheriff. Now this sheriff had come into his position guns blazing, so to speak, and had quite the reputation as being a no-nonsense badass. For example, he put armed deputies in the back rooms of convenience stores with orders to shoot armed robbers at first sight of a weapon, no questions asked, and they did exactly that. Needless to say, robberies at convenience stores dropped dramatically, but I digress. This sheriff was attempting to make a purchase for around $400. I don't remember what it was, but the amount stuck in my head for some reason. When a store clerk called the authorizer desk for approval, I asked her to get the driver's license and provide me with a number. As this account had an ID only requirement at the account holder's request, I heard her ask the sheriff for his license, to which he stated he did not have it with him. I informed the clerk that the charge could not be approved, gave her the decline code, noted the account and hung up the phone. Within just a few seconds the phone rang again, and since I hadn't gotten any notifications on the authorization machine, I assumed it was the clerk calling about the sheriff's account again. Sure enough, it was. She said he was demanding the charge be approved because he obviously the sheriff, as everyone knows who he is. I told her that I wasn't in the store and therefore could not confirm who he was, and that without ID I would not approve the charge. The sheriff then got on the phone with me, demanding I approve the charge, or there would be hell to pay. I again informed him that, per the account holder's request, no charges could be approved without ID. He was livid. He demanded to speak to my manager, and I told him I would be happy to provide him with a number to call, but he could not speak to my manager on this phone. Again, he blew up, calling me incompetent and, "Don't you know who I am?" and behaving as entitled as anyone I've ever seen in my life. I let him finish his tirade and very calmly informed him, again, that he was welcome to call the manager at a number I would provide, but without ID, I would not approve the charge. So, after all that ugliness he spouted to me, I decided to get a little digging in my own. I then informed him that, if he really was the sheriff, he would certainly know that it was against the law to drive without his driver's license, and that he had done so, led me to believe this was a fraudulent purchase. I then told him that if he did not leave the store, I would contact mall security and have him removed. Livid isn't exactly the word I would use. Just think of some word used to describe anger at a 10 times higher degree than livid, and that might come close to describing his mood at that moment. After a few select curse words, he slammed down the phone quite loudly. I called the store clerk back, made sure she had noted the decline code on a registration transaction, and made sure he was leaving the store, which he was. I then provided a detailed description of the encounter on the account notes and closed out the charge as declined. The next morning, I was called into the manager's office. She proceeded to tell me that, although I handled the charge correctly, my conversation with the customer was less than satisfactory and asked that I be more respectful in the future. She said he had requested that I be terminated, to which she informed him that she would not do that because I'd done exactly what I was supposed to do. I'm now in my early 50s and still haven't learned to treat people respectfully when they scream and curse at me, simply because I did exactly as they requested, and I sincerely doubt I ever will. Our next story is from DMV1. Previous EPs tried to steal my Audi, tried again, gave them a very bad warning. Idiots don't learn. Hello all, back again. Backstory, basically 2 EPs tried to steal my daughter out of the arms of my wife, and I nearly shot them. And trust me, as crazy as this sounds, it's not fake. Here is the previous post, but it's an entitled parent story. We're going to visit that post first, and then we'll come back to this one. See, dynamic. EM and ED tries to steal my daughter and nearly gets shot by me. This still pisses me off so much even typing this, so this happened when my daughter was 6 weeks old, around 3 months ago, and I'm still extremely pissed about this. Sorry for any errors and stuff like that. English isn't my first language, and it happened while we're talking in our home language, so we'll translate it best as I possibly can. There was swearing, but we'll replace the words, and it does get violent. Now of course you all know whom ED and EM is, but SGF is security guard friend, W is wife, LG is little girl, and well M is me. We live in an area of South Africa that has middle class people, but there is a lot of crime, kidnapping, robberies and so on, so I tend to carry a firearm when we go out. Military life and growing up in a dangerous area, this is important later on. Now we went out to the mall on this day with LG for the first time. We just got her asleep. She is very hard-headed and difficult to get to sleep sometimes, so we went to a restaurant to get some food. As we were walking, everyone said our LG is beautiful and all that. That is when they came, the two devil spawn, the ground shaking, everyone running for their lives. Yes, I know a bit over dramatic, but this is when we ran into ED and EM. This is how it started and took a major twist. The EM said, "Oh, look how beautiful," looking at ED. ED said, "She's very beautiful." We said, "Thank you very much." "How old is she?" My wife said, "She is 6 weeks old today." "She is so small. Do you even feed the little darling?" "We do," she, and ED cuts W off. "No, she doesn't look like she's eating enough." Annoyed by this, "Sir, she is eating a lot." EM looking at ED, "Wish we had another LG." ED with a very evil smile, "Me too, honey. You two look like you got a lot on your hands." Now this is where stuff goes from 1 to 100 in a few seconds. What also happens at this mall is that people, mostly children, get kidnapped. I said, "No sir, she's very sweet for her age and is not a handful at times, such a newborns." EM said, "Can I hold her for a few seconds?" My wife said, "No, sorry, she just fell asleep a few minutes ago." EM says, "I'm sure she won't wake up," and tries to take our LG out of the pram. "Mom, we said no, now please don't pick her up and let's go on our way." ED blocking us as we try to walk away. "Now son, that is not needed. We're all adults here, so let EM pick her up." I said, "Sir, please move." ED said, "I didn't think so." At this moment I'm standing in front of our pram when EM and ED tries to push me out of the way. I say, "Step away now." The ED says, "Boy, give the child here now," which my wife says, "Honey." I turn around to see EM trying to pick LG up. "Mom, don't you dare," to which ED physically grabbing me now. "Don't you dare talk to my wife." I say, "Wife, take our LG from here now." Wife pulls the pram away from EM and picks up our LG. "Sir, if you do not let me go, I will defend us." The ED says, "Ha, what are you gonna do?" At this point, before he could finish, I did an MI tactic to loosen oneself from a grip. What that is I basically headbutt him and throw him over my back, doing as much damage as I can as I push EM away from W. I shout, "Security!" This is when I reach my firearm. When ED and EM saw this, they tried again to take LG. I punch EM. "Don't you dare move closer." Me pulling a firearm. "Get on the ground now." ED and EM drop to the ground, and this is when SGF comes in. SGF says, "What the heck is going on?" I say, "These two motherfuckers tried to steal LG." W is crying now, trying to calm LG. The security guard says, "Sir, put your weapon away." I say, "Not until the police arrive." Around 10 minutes later the police arrives and puts them in cuffs. 20 minutes later, when they were shown the security video, we pressed charges of attempted kidnapping and assault. It did go to court and they got a 10-year sentence. Still very, very pissed with us even now. Got more stories, but that's for another time. So short story, two entitled parents tried to take our LG and nearly got the crap beaten out of them with some good justice. I remember reading this story quite a while back. I do remember this one, so it must have been like 10 months ago at least. And it's in South Africa, so I can truly believe this because there's some dodgy places there, man. But anyway, we're going to go back to the other story now. So now we're back with this story. They paid bail and found out where me and W wife and LD little daughter lives and paid us a visit. It was my day off and I was asleep when I heard my wife scream. It scared the shit out of me and nearly had my heart drop out of my feet. I jumped out of bed, butt-ass naked, and ran to my wife. That's when I saw those same two motherfuckers who tried to steal my LD forcing their way into my home. Now being paranoid, different story. I always have a weapon stashed somewhere close by, but I thought I could take them on without it. Big fucking mistake ever of their lives. Number 2 actually. The older man pulled a knife out of his back pocket, at which I screamed at W to run to LD's room and lock herself in. She did just that, and with a lot of luck and a big ass fucking knife, I forced them out. 99% of them anyways. The older man lost a finger. This is the time I decided not to call the police and plan my revenge. Being ex-military and having a lot of special forces friends, I found out where they live very easily, so me and 2 of my buddies paid them a visit. Let me say that the way they shut themselves when they saw us, I have a handy small riot shotgun. Bad times were here in South Africa, and I decided I wanted to shove the message deep down their throats that they can choke on my fucking arm sleeve. Not really though, that would be badass. They can ask a lot of people that work with riot gun how badly a riot shotgun can hurt, broken bones, and in some cases, very rare, they can kill. We knocked and they opened up as I took aim at their knees and put 2 very well aimed shots, 2 kneecaps busted, beyond repair. And just to make the message clear, I told them if I ever see them within 200 meters from me or my family, I will make them look forward to the trip to hell with the amount of pain I will inflict on them. And for some extra measuring, I dropped this finger next to them. Told him, and please keep your fingers to yourself next time or you will have none left. This was 8 months ago. They left the country last time I checked. Fun times. I enjoyed myself. Sorry, a bit of a sadist. Wife finds it horrifying sometimes, but I don't mind. So yeah, fun few weeks. W was okay, very shaken up, but glad I was there, and Ali is too young to be able to remember this. What the hell, man? This guy told me on Discord this was a bit extreme, and I can totally see where you're coming from. You know, I kind of believe stuff that comes from South Africa, because that place is mental. Not all the places, but there's some areas in there with a lot of crazy people. I mean, there's a lot of poverty there, so there's a lot of people who are desperate and dangerous. It's just like it takes like entitled parents and stuff up to a new level, which we all thought was impossible. I mean, we see these British and American entitled parents, and you go over South Africa, and there's riot shotguns and all sorts. It's like World War III. Thank you very, very much for sharing that story, as extreme as it was. 2 kneecaps busted. What the hell? Wow. Our next story is from Fiona McTire, 91. Horror stories from the call centre. Hey there, Mark. My sister, Dawn, and I listen to your channel all the time. She said I should share my horror stories from my year at call centres. I've worked at 3 different call centres and worked with several different companies, but I will start with stories from when I worked as a representative for a well-known company with its signature red checkmark. To give you an idea of how horrible this company is on representatives, I will give you a small story from my time in training. After the 2 weeks in-class training, which was basically just learn how to use different systems, I was put onto the phones under supervision. I got a call from a customer who was upset because their cell phone was running out of storage data. Now, anyone who knows anything about cell phones knows that many of them can have their storage expanded via an SD card. I confirmed that customers' phones could be expanded this way, i.e. wasn't an iPhone, and it was. You can order SD cards direct through this company at the time, but the customer really needed a quick expansion and couldn't wait the time it would take to ship something out to them. So I informed the customer that they could find SD cards of all types at most retailers that sell cell phones. The customer thanked me and hung up. About 10 minutes after that, I got called aside by the supervisor of the trainees. I got screamed at because I hadn't pressed that customer to upgrade their cell phone, despite them not even having an upgrade on their line. You see, even though they tell you when you are hired and while you are training that you are not required to upsell anything, they did expect you to do so anyway. In fact, if you see the upgrade info on any line, that the folks that listen to the calls will rip you apart if you don't suggest an upgrade to a newer phone regardless of why the customer's calling in. I'm not sure why this story would fit since it isn't retail. Maybe a Tales from the Call Centre label would work. Anyway, I will add more stories from my time with this company if anyone is interested, as well as other call centre stories if you folks would like that. Thanks for reading and keep doing what you love, Mark. And you too. Thank you for sharing that story, it really means a lot. And yes, at the moment, my phone contract has just run out, so I've got O2 fucking ringing me every day at the moment, trying to upsell me shit. And I try not to give the people a hard time on the phone, because I know they're just doing their job, so I always prefix what I say. I always say, look, I know you're just doing your thing, but I'm really sorry, I'm not interested right now. And generally they take it okay. Some of them are a bit more pushy, and then I just tell them to F off. I'm sorry guys, I'm sorry. I have my limits. Thank you Fiona and Dawn very much for that. Our next story is from Even Reptar is Naked. I remember that name now. Rugrats, right. How to make friends as an adult. Wholesome. Disclaimer across post, mobile, obligatory, oh hi Mark. Hi yourself. I used to work at a thrift shop a while back. When we moved to a new location, the other cashiers and I had the old location moved to sorting. Since this new place was massive comparatively, that meant way more things to go through and they needed more hands, so it was just me at the front. I was tidying up the displays up front when she walked in. She was borderline ethereal, long black and purple dreads, 5'2" and curvaceous as hell, Big brown glossy anime eyes, a voice so loud and gregarious I could hear it across a massive building, and a laugh that could warm the coldest heart. I call her Meg, like Megara from Hercules. She took a while to pick out her things. Again, it was a big place. But when she came to my counter, oh, good gravy. Thank goodness no one was behind her. Customer service is my jam. I love people and always try to make conversation during transactions. But this was different. Something clicked. It was more like love at first sight before either of us said a word, and we both felt it. While scanning, I found her name was Meg. Our birthdays are 3 days apart. She has my dream car, which is also hers, a VW Beetle. We both love nerd shit and had a plethora of other things in common. Since she was new to the area and freshly single, I invited her to share my upcoming birthday party with me. She happily accepted and she gave me her number. I screamed. I texted her immediately after she left. I said, "Hey you, meeting you was the best part of my day and I hope you were ready because I'm going to friend the fuck out of you." Meg didn't reply. Hours later, me, realising I may have come off too strong. "I'm sorry if I came off weird. I'm excited to be friends. I hope I didn't scare you off." Again, Meg was silent. I was butthurt, but I shook it off and moved on. I was working the closing shift a week later, and who would walk in but her, pushing a little wobbly cart like she owned the place. We met eyes and scowled at each other, didn't say a word for like 10 minutes. When she passed by closer, I snarkily said, "Oh, hi." Meg said, "Oh, so now you want to talk to me?" I said, "Excuse you? I texted you twice and you didn't answer." She said, "The hell you did." I said, "I text you as soon as you left. I'll show you." I scramble for my phone, find the text and shove it in her face. "See?" Meg laughs. "You're such a ditz. It's supposed to be a 7, not an 8. Oh my god." We cried laughing for the next 5 minutes, theorising about what person got those texts and what they thought. It was unreal. So that's how I met my best friend of almost 5 years while working at a thrift store at the age of 25. It's possible to make friends as an adult. Just put yourself out there when you feel vibes from a person. And for the love of God, check the number just in case. You don't want some poor sap getting your aggressive friendship texts. Imagine receiving a message just randomly, I'm gonna friend the fuck out of you. I'll be like, oh my god, who is this? Thank you so much, Reptile, once again for your story. That is cute. Our next story is from, you're going to have to excuse me while I butcher this, Jayet Plain. I'm really sorry if I got that wrong. My first almost anti-vax at the store. No real shade, but damn. Long-time stalker, I love your videos, Mark. I'm glad to finally have a decent story for you. Also first-time poster, sorry I'm mobile, blah blah. Not really entitled parent, just not sure where to put this. Backstory, I'm a pharmacy tech, and I have been for 3+ years. I will admit when I'm in the wrong and do my research to prevent sounding dumb, and I've dealt with a lot of stupid questions about the coronavirus and vaccines, and in the end, it's your body, do with it what you wish. So I went up to my nearby store to grab some late night ice cream, fudge bars if you're wondering. The shopping process is all easy, and the checkout was smooth. One of my favourite cashiers and I were chatting about the coronavirus and how it's been around for a while, and people just need basic hygiene and maybe take some vitamin C daily to stay safe. As I'm about to walk out of the building, another co-worker walked up, overhearing us talking about the virus and protections. Immediately, I knew that she wasn't someone to actually read the stuff she says she reads. Her. Whenever me or my children need a vaccine, I demand the vaccine insert so I can see exactly what they say, and a couple of doctors won't let me read them. I say, well, if they aren't really allowing you to read them, you should report them to the board because they aren't doing their job properly. I might do that. There was even this one doctor that tried to force me to get one while pregnant, and he couldn't show me proof where they tested it on pregnant women. My doctor said that they haven't done any testing on pregnant women before because it's too risky to test on them. Me, in my head. What the literal hell, lady? That's probably for the whooping cough and tetanus. But what I actually say is, actually there's, inserts a couple of semi-local hospitals that do just that. Run experiments and try new stuff out with patients to see if something new could work. We have to practice somewhere, don't we? She seemed stumped by this and then began explaining how she just convinced a friend to limit and space out the vaccine for her newborn until he was at least a year old before getting the first one because she believes her sons are proof that vaccinations can cause autism. I remained calm on the outside while screaming and wanted to shake this lady on the inside. And she was talking about how her first son had all the vaccines as needed and now he has autism. And she spaced him with her second and he hasn't shown any signs of it yet. There we go, FDA. Here's your proof. It wasn't an outrageous conversation. She didn't get upset or crazy at me, but boy did she say some bullcrap and got my heart racing. I just wish she hadn't told me wholeheartedly believed her son was autistic from vaccines. Like my dad always said, you can't fix stupid. Thank you for reading this if you did, and sorry about the bad format or terrible writing. Thank you very much, yes, anti-vax parents. Fucking hell. There's no hope for them. I think that's all you could literally do is just stand there and just scream internally because they won't be convinced. They will not be convinced. Thank you very, very much for sharing your story. Once again, guys, thank you so much for sharing your stories. I really do love reading them, especially when it comes from our community. It's a bit more closer to home, isn't it? And it's a bit more fun because we can have a bit of interaction afterwards in our Discord and things like that. Thank you very, very much for being here. It's truly, truly appreciated. And I will see you in the next one. Much love now.